Hello, I wanted to walk through my process on how to start coding up for mobile first. So I just chose Amelia. It's a local dress shop, and yeah, their desktop had a few, like they have a crazy big menu, so I'm going to simplify that. Looks like they have an ad on the top that I should consider, but I'm just going to start with coding it up, and here's kind of what theirs looks like, Mobley. So let's switch over to ours. So I just started, let me do this. I just grabbed all the images from that top carousel and I just put them all in one big line so I have them available. Then I added the content sections. There's featured dresses. So on desktop, these are going to be in multiple columns, but on mobile, I'm going to do single columns. So I can work on that here. And then, yeah, the rest of the content areas. So first thing I'm going to do is grab my font. I went with Arvo and Lato, so I'm going to grab this, Arvo. And I noticed something about fonts when I was working on this. For the body font, you'll need to specify a font weight. I didn't realize that. It's because of the this like Meyer reset. So I'll show you that in a second. That might be why some of you are having some font issues. I do apologize. And then let's see, these tags I need for my CSS. So I'll just go to style. I'm just going to stick this on the top. Okay, so I'll grab the header ones first. So cut, and I'll just replace this. And then for Lato, I'm going to replace this. I'm going to keep it at font size 16, and I'm going to say font weight 400 is regular. Okay, so let's see where we are now. Okay, so that font is working, and check the body. Let me see, font weight, Arvo, font weight, I'm gonna try 300. Yeah, it looks like it's working. Okay, 400. Okay, cool. So let's add a little bit of margin and padding. So for this is the H1. Let's go to the index page. I have a little bit of space here. So for this H1, I'm going to give it some padding. All my H1s probably will be the same because they're all going to be the top name. They're probably all just going to be that logo. Kind of thinking things through here. I'll just make a logo style. So down where my classes start. Okay, so I'll say dot logo, and then let's give it a margin. The top and bottom, I'll just do margin top of like maybe 30 pixels, and then margin left of 40 pixels. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's lining up with the nav. I'm going to leave it there. The carousel, I think I will have a little bit of margin on, so let's take a look at that. I know that I'm going to, oh, there it is. I know I'm going to use the Tom's slideshow thing, and I think the class is just slideshow, so I'll just do that now. I'll just wrap them all in a div. Image. Oh, right, and I'm going to just comment them out too so that I don't have to look at all of them. I'll just deal with wiring up the slideshow later. Okay, so now I have them in a div called slideshow. Let's make sure they are not all. Okay, cool. So now I just have one. It's not as giant. So I'll say slideshow, and I want to have a little bit of margin on the right and left, and then a pretty decent margin above and below. So if you do the two pairs of numbers, you can do top, bottom, and then the second one is right, left. So for top, bottom, I'm going to say, maybe on mobile I'll do 30 pixels. And then from the right to left, I'll do 20 pixels. I want it to have a lot of space on mobile. slideshow. Okay, so there's that. And now that I think about it, let's change that. If I put 20 pixel margin on this, I have to do it on everything else. There's actually an easier way to do this. So what if we just do that on main? So I'm going to change that. I'm going to say for my margin top and bottom, keep it at 30, but just give me a 0 margin on the left and right. So that'll make it be smashed up like all the rest of the stuff. And then I wonder if I have a main in here. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to add a main right here, main, and I'm going to say give me margin that is top bottom 0, because I'll deal with it in other spaces, but on the sides on mobile make it 20 pixels. So if I save that and I hit refresh, then that gives everything inside of main a nice margin on the right and left for mobile. Okay, so let's work on the paragraph first. So here's my paragraph. I don't like the line height, so I'm going to give a general paragraph for my whole site that's going to be line height 1.2 m, or I'd rather do m's, but I could do like 20 pixels. Yeah, I think 20 pixels is good. And then I'm going to give it a margin bottom, because every time I have a paragraph, I want to make sure there's space underneath it. So maybe 20 pixels for that margin bottom as well. Okay, so that pushes that featured header down nicely. So I may not have to mess with that right now. Let's go to the images. I'm really sorry about my dogs. Okay, so it looks like that header I will have to deal with here, right? So let's do that right now. This one, the featured, all the headers I think are the same. They're all H2. So on H2, let's give them a margin bottom. So I'm going to go up to where my H's are. H2, I'm going to say margin bottom of 20. I guess I'm really into 20 pixels right now. All right, let's look at that one down there. Okay. Kind of needs a margin top too, right? So let's do margin top of 40 pixels. Okay, that's better. And then, so since we have such a good margin happening, let's just do the footer. So footer, okay, and then it has this sub nav. So I'll just check back on main. I'll probably have the footer sticky, so I think what I'll do is I'll just put footer, background, color, I don't know, something light. And then I'll say position, fixed. And then I'll say bottom 0, left 0, and then right 0. And that should do the full width footer, and then I'll worry about the aligning things. Okay, so there's my footer. I actually want to have a margin above this so that that content doesn't get lost inside there too. So I'm going to say margin top 40 pixels. See if that helps. And I might have to do it on the main. Let's try that. So margin bottom 40 pixels. I feel like that made it even worse. Let's do 80 and see if it gets worse or better. We've curated, yeah, makes it worse. Cool, negative 40. Negative 80. Cool, sweet. Margin bottom. Interesting. Oh, okay, I'm just crazy. All right, so 180 gets it close. I'll say 120. Okay, cool, and then I'll make these in line. But that's kind of, so now that I have these things kind of nicely padded, now what I want to do is I want to make, I'll make these dresses. I would probably make these smaller, but in the sake of time, I'll just leave them this size. But when I get to 768, I probably have enough space to do 2 dresses side by side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see where they are. Featured. Okay, so I have a figure and a figure. And so I can use the figure as a single grid item, but I want to wrap them in something. So I'm going to say section, and then I'll give them a class of dress grid. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I close that section down here after the last figure. So now I can use dress grid as the name of my grid. I'm going to actually define it in mobile and just make it be a single column. So I'll say dress grid, display grid, grid template columns 1FR. So the reason why I'm doing it here is because I want the least amount of code in my media queries for one. Also, it makes me realize that dress grid is set up as a grid up here and that it will change, right? So, okay, so, oops. Okay, so I need a media query at media and screen only, media only and screen. I can never remember. Media only screen and media only screen and 760 min width. So anything larger than 768, I'm going to say make this. I don't need this because I already have it above. Make this 2 columns, 1FR. So let's see what happens here. So if I expand this out, then it pops up into 2 columns. And as you can see, I definitely want to make those dresses smaller and mobile. I'll deal with that later. Let's make a larger media query because maybe I want to have 3 or 4 dresses on larger size. So I'll do a 1020, or maybe I'll do a 1200, and I'll make it 4 columns. Okay, so stretching out, 2 columns, stretching out more, 4 columns. And then even on the mobile size, I think I probably want to have some margin on that text. So let's look at that. I decided to use figure because I found the tag and I thought, well, that's great. Figure caption can be styled. So I'm going to say up here, style my figure caption. Yeah, I'll put it, so where should I put it? I'll put it after main. Dogs again, sorry. So I'm going to say the margin on the, I'll give it a little bit of margin on top and bottom, and then left and right, I might give it 30 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, don't really like it. 60. Quiet dogs. Okay, I may have to just like do some breaks since this has a what do you call it? Prices in it. So I'd probably do a break. Black on white abstract geometric. That's a long name for a dress. That is very awkward. Okay, well, I'm going to keep it at 60 and then let's see what happens when I get, yeah, so not too bad. The other thing is I want some space between the end of the grid and then that paragraph, right? So the grid is dress grid, so they can go in here and say dress grid. This is the top one. So margin, bottom, 40 pixels. And then I'll probably expand that even more on desktop. So let's see what we got. Yeah, and these are like funky about paragraphs. I'll show you what they are on the original site. This sucker's 15 minutes though. So I think what I might do is do like a double column or make them more narrow like this, and maybe even add a header because they seem like they're sort of floating in space. They don't really have headers to them. Okay, I hope that helps to just sort of see the process. And there you go. I'm going to upload this sucker now. Thank you for watching.